Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, last week I made a video going over all the ins and outs of the legendary crafting system, and you guys had a few questions. So today we're going to go through, look at a few of the specifics, and hopefully get some of those answered. So, let's jump into it. Okay then, so as I say, we went through the major ins and outs of the legendary crafting system last week. I'll link that video up in the top right corner if you're interested in checking that one out. Sort of disclaimer FYI first, this is on the public test server, so we are looking at unreleased content here. It is subject to change, in fact we'll be touching on a few changes in a minute. But it is expected to go live along with the rest of the Steel Rain update at the end of July. Most likely, my current guess is the 27th of July, but we are still waiting on confirmation on that for Bethesda, so they'll be hitting all platforms at that point in time, I should imagine. So, first up, we have had a little update to the PTS that changes a couple of things about this. So, the Secret Service, Strangleheart, Solar and Thorn armors now craftable as part of the legendary system. We'll have a look at those in a little bit more detail in just a moment, but that was one of the big questions, so that's cool. The Anti-Scorch training pistol's been added in as well. They have made some adjustments to the drop rate with regards to legendary cores dropping from public events and daily ops. They should now drop much more reliably, much more often. That was one problem I had early on as well. Tried that last week, couldn't get any legendary cores to drop, so hopefully that'll be significantly improved. I haven't had the opportunity to test it just yet, but fingers crossed on that one. Bodes well for the eventual release. Good to see they're working on these things continually. So there are a couple of changes to specific types of weapons and armor as well. So we can have a look at power armor in more detail in just a moment, because that's one of my big questions. But one of the big changes is that unyielding is no longer available on power armor. My guess is that would either be just not that functional, because power armor sets your stats to specific levels, which could be one reason for it. So the two would interfere with each other, would be my guess. The other possibility is it might make your power armor just a bit too overpowered. They don't want to make things ridiculous after all, so I'm guessing it's one of those two. Obviously, as we can see from the patch notes here on Discord, they haven't actually specified. They don't normally, so that's fairly standard, but a little speculation can go a long way there, I think. They have also removed the Stalker's effect from melee weapons, which makes sense, as it's additional damage if you're not in combat. I'm guessing that doesn't work on melee weapons very well, because by the time you get close enough to use one, you're in combat. Or at least most of the time, I guess. But they have replaced that with a couple of other effects that previously were not available for melee weapons that have been brought over from ranged weapons that are quite cool. So you can now have VATS criticals doing 50% extra damage, VATS critical meter filling 15% faster, and 25% less action point cost when you're in VATS as well. So a couple of little bonuses there for the melee weapons. Another big change is that automatic weapons, that being weapons that are always automatic, like say the minigun or the 50 cal machine gun, now can spawn with the quad legendary effect, so they can have 4 times the ammo capacity. That will not apply to Gatling lasers or plasmas, however. Anything that uses cores as a ammo type. Guessing because those already have massive magazines anyway. And they've also added a shiny little new tutorial for those jumping into the legendary crafting system for the first time. That should pop up when you first pick up a legendary core, which will likely be after your first daily op or public event once this update goes live at the end of July. So, there are a few other bits and pieces there that you can see in the patch notes, but for now that's the key points. We'll jump on and have a look at some of the questions you folks had. So, first on my list for today is a lot of people commenting on the RNG and the grind behind this system as to whether or not it'll be more or less, yada yada yada. I know there are some concerns that maybe sticking with a purveyor might be the way to go, that sort of thing. Honestly, I would say not. Basically, what this amounts to is that for a 3-star ranged weapon, for example, you're taking a reduction there of about 35 times, give or take, depending on how many plans you've unlocked. In terms of the RNG, there are 35 times fewer options that could possibly come up if you use the legendary crafting system compared to the purveyor. Because obviously with the purveyor, you can get any 3-star ranged weapon, whereas if you're using the legendary crafting, you'll only get the weapon you want. It's just the effect you roll. So it's a massive, massive decrease in the number of possible combinations. Obviously, this applies also with slightly different figures to armor and to melee weapons as well, so you're massively, massively improving on it. As to whether or not there's more grind, You could say that, but if you're doing the seasons or chasing down bullion or anything like that, chances are you're going to be doing daily ops, you're going to be doing events anyway. Essentially, it's kind of going to keep you busy, I think. I don't think it's going to feel too horribly grinding. I can see where that perspective might come from, but I don't think it's going to be too bad on that front. Especially as it's built into an existing sort of gameplay mode, things you're going to be doing anyway, so you'll be collecting them as you go. So hopefully that will not feel like they're adding too much in additional grind. So I think that's going to come out reasonably well, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it. So the next one is power armor. So let's have a quick look at this. So my big question first is whether or not the helmets will work with this. So it looks like there's nothing showing up on the helmet in terms of legendary crafting. Not surprising, most headgear is not subject to being legendary or anything else, so I'm not surprised to see that being true on power armor. Let's have a look at the torso. There we go, we've got a legendary mod there. Yeah, no, it's definitely not there, I'm not going crazy, that's okay. So, legendary mods are available. We're looking at 1 core and 2 modules. Modules being the one that you get from the purveyor, cores being the one that drop from events and daily ops. I know I got those the wrong way around a couple of times last time, so let's try and get it right this time. So at 2-star we have 3 cores and 3 modules, and at 3-star we have 5 cores and 4 modules. So that's comparable to everything else, which is about what you'd expect. I'm not going to use up my limited resources on this particular character doing that at the moment, but we can see those will roll in much the same way as we saw last time, which is very, very cool. And obviously, same thing for legs, 1 and 2, 3 and 3, and 5 and 4. So same for torso, arms and legs across the board, which is pretty cool. Let's check the arm anyway for the sake of covering all our bases. Yep, that is the same as well. So nice to know that is nice and even across the board for your power armor. We're checking on T60 here. I would imagine it'll be much the same irrespective of which type of power armor you're using. Probably break out my excavator and double check that actually. Let's have a look. Alright, Exco on, that'll do it. I have no idea what skin I've got on this, probably just the basic one actually, because I wanted to keep it. There we go, it is the basic one. So, let's have a look here. Yep, exactly the same, no matter which type of power armor you have. We'll look at that, which is very, very cool. So, Secret Service armor and other existing crafted legendaries. So let's bounce over and have a look at that. I do have some Secret Service armor. As we know, these have just been added to the pool of things that can be modified using this system. So, shielded, that's the under armor. No, where is my chest piece? There we go, I've changed the name and I can't see it now. Anyway, so there's my current chest piece. You can see we can re-roll any of the effects we want. I don't want to do that because I'm actually quite happy with this particular combination. And what we're looking at here, 1 and 1, 3 and 2, and 5 and 3. So pretty much consistent with everything else we've seen already, if I remember rightly. Double check as soon as we're here. My left arm, that'll do. 1 and 1, 2 and 3 and 2, 5 and 3. So yeah, that's consistent. And it does mean that you won't have to craft it over and over again. You can just re-roll your Secret Service armor, wherever it is, and get the full benefits of the legendary crafting system without having to wind up with hundreds and hundreds of pieces of Secret Service armor that you can't get rid of. It'll save you on crafting materials a lot, with the exception of the cores and modules, obviously. So that's cool. I think I'll be waiting to craft the rest of my Secret Service kit until this particular update goes live. That's good to know about. So, while we are on the subject of armor, I did have a question about whether or not we can add legendaries to the Chinese stealth armor, and it looks like no, we cannot at the moment. And I suspect the reason for that is it's being treated as a unique item. So I'm suspecting those things that come pre-rolled with the same legendary effects every time basically will not be craftable using this system, for the most part. So the Chinese stealth armor is clearly considered to be a unique legendary, because effectively we do have 3-star effects on here already. Reduced falling and damage, blending in with the environment, and resistance to waterborne hazards. So it's effectively 3-star armor already, so I think that's probably why. As we'll see when we have a look at the weapons in a moment, the unique legendary items already come as legendaries, and I suspect those won't change either. Brotherhood Recon. Yep, we can do the same thing with that as well. That's all good to see. And we're looking at the same numbers for cores and modules on those as well. That's about what we'd expect. And I've got a heavy left leg just to double check that these are exactly the same. They are indeed. Wonderful. So good to know all that works just the same as everything else. Should save us a lot of crafting. So, moving over to the weapons bench, I should have, I believe... Yes, we've got a couple of pre-existing legendaries here that are unique items. So we've got Mind Over Matter here. And as we can see, once again, this one is not subject to legendary crafting because it is a unique weapon. Makes sense. It's supposed to stick with its existing set of legendaries. And Fact Finder again is exactly the same. This is another unique legendary. And again, we can't craft that. So that is basically, I suspect, the way this is going to work. I don't imagine they'll change this. That something comes with preloaded legendaries and is a unique item, it'll stay the same and you can't change it. That's about what we'd expect. Most of these things, on the other hand, you can craft basic versions of and roll your own combination of legendaries on if you want. So that does make a certain amount of sense as well. Gives you the best of both worlds that way. So next up we have the Ripper and the Chainsaw. I got specific questions on those. So let's have a look at the Chainsaw. Randomly crafted a level 21 of these. This is not in the legendary system at the moment. Whether or not that'll change, I don't know. I have to admit, I hope it does, because as it currently stands, that's kind of useless. Chainsaw in general. So it'd be cool to see that get fixed up so we can do those Leatherface builds if we want to. But for the moment, no legendary effects on chainsaws. What about the Ripper? And that is exactly the same, so no legendary effects on that either at the moment, so still not a particularly desirable item. And we did have questions on the Fixer. So obviously the Fixer already comes as a 2-star legendary, effectively. It's got improved stealth and fastest movement speed when sneaking. So we can legendary craft those up to... we've got the same number of cores on these as well, cores and modules, that's good to see that the same. And that will effectively make it up to a 5-star legendary, which is exactly the same as it currently is if you roll a 3-star Fixer. I did expect that to be in there, as it's available as a legendary anyway, so it wouldn't make sense for it not to be craftable. But there we go, Fixer is available as well. It's good to see. So, that covers most of the questions I was asked. If you guys have any further ones, by all means drop them down in the comments and I'll give you my best impression and thoughts if it's something I haven't been able to test out. But good to have a few of those more... esoteric, obscure questions answered as well, and good to see a few little bits and pieces I didn't show off last time as well. So there was one particular question that did get raised, or subject that got raised rather, that I don't have an answer for, and that was regarding weapons that come from Nuclear Winter. I assume these are Nuclear Winter specific rewards for progress through the ranks in that game mode. I unfortunately have not played enough to pick any of those up, so I can't test those myself, so I'm not sure how those will actually pan out when they get into the game, so unfortunately can't offer any more insight on that. There are rumours and bits of information floating around, but I'd hold off until that actually goes live and you can test it before putting too much stock in those, really, as it gets people get a bit excited on that sometimes, so we'll have to wait and see on that. So yeah, some interesting stuff. I would expect there'll be further developments on this going forward, most of which I would expect to cover closer to when the update actually goes live. I'm going to look at that in more detail. I'd imagine the patch notes video for that particular update will be quite an extensive one, as it's going to be absolutely huge. And as per usual, of course, we'll have to pursue Steel Rain and that storyline once that goes live as well. I'm looking forward to that. Avoiding any spoilers so far, so I'm quite happy about that. So not playing through that until it actually drops, so you guys can join me in experiencing it for the first time as well. So should be very, very cool. So, on that note, I hope you found this interesting, useful, and informative. If you did, please consider dropping subs and likes. It's always very, very much appreciated. Down below the video you can find social media links, the merch store, and channel memberships as well if you're interested in supporting the channel in that way. It is very, very helpful and hugely appreciated, so massive thank you to everyone who's done that already. And if you get a chance to join us for live streams as well, we're playing Fallout 76 of course, and Mass Effect 2 as well through Mass Effect Legendary Edition, having a lot of fun with that. So I do hope to see you there as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.